The Islamic conquests were responsible for some of the greatest atrocities in human history. In this video, we're going to look at the cruelest things that the Islamic Caliphates did to their conquered peoples. Viewer discretion is advised for this video, as some of this content may be offensive or disturbing. We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone the atrocities that are discussed. This video is made for educational purposes only. Before we start, click the like button and subscribe for more videos. Also, click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. 8. The Muslim conquest of Persia. The Sasanian Empire was a Persian empire that ruled over a large part of Western Asia from 224 to 651 AD. When the Muslim armies invaded and conquered Persia, they did so with extreme cruelty. They slaughtered entire villages of Persians, burned their cities, and destroyed their crops. The Muslims also took many Persian slaves and sold them into slavery. In addition, they imposed a heavy jizya tax on the Persians, which was a tax on non-Muslims that was used to pay for the upkeep of the Muslim army. This tax was very burdensome, and it caused great hardship for the Persian people. The Muslims also tried to convert the Persians to Islam by force. They built mosques on top of fire temples, and they destroyed many Zoroastrian texts. Many Persians were forced to convert to Islam, while others were killed for refusing to do so. The Muslim conquest of Persia was a terrible tragedy for the Persian people. They lost their land, their freedom, and their lives. Their culture was also nearly destroyed, as the Muslims tried to wipe out Zoroastrianism and replace it with Islam. 7. The Muslim conquest of North Africa. The Muslim conquest of North Africa was a gradual process that began in the 7th century and was completed in the 8th century. It was a significant event because it marked the beginning of Muslim rule in one of the most important regions in the world. The conquest also had a profound impact on the history of both Islam and the peoples of North Africa. The early Muslim conquerors were mostly Arab tribes who were united by their common religion. They were led by generals such as Amr ibn al-As and Uqba ibn Nafi. The Muslim armies arrived in North Africa in the late 7th century and quickly began to make advances. They defeated the Byzantine army in several battles and eventually captured the city of Carthage. From there, they continued their advance westward until they reached the Atlantic Ocean. The Muslim conquest of North Africa was a peaceful process, at least initially. The Muslims were tolerant of other religions and did not force people to convert to Islam. However, this attitude changed over time, and the Muslims began to persecute the indigenous peoples of North Africa. They imposed heavy taxes on them and forced them to convert to Islam or leave the region. The Muslims also built mosques on top of Christian churches and Jewish synagogues, and they destroyed many holy sites. The Muslim conquest of North Africa had a profound impact on the history of both Islam and the peoples of North Africa. The conquest marked the beginning of Muslim rule in one of the most important regions in the world. It also led to the spread of Islam throughout North Africa and the persecution of the indigenous peoples. Number 6. The Crusades. The Crusades were a series of religious wars sanctioned by the Latin Church in the medieval period. The Latin Church encouraged European Christians to take up arms against pagans, specifically Muslims, in order to reclaim the Holy Land. The Crusades took place between the 11th and 13th centuries. During this time, European Christians seized Jerusalem and established Crusader states in the Levant. These states were surrounded by Muslim powers, and the Crusaders engaged in frequent warfare with them. As the Crusades progressed, the goals of the European Christians expanded beyond the recovery of the Holy Land. They began to conquer and plunder Muslim territories across the Near East. Although the Crusades officially ended in 1291, the military operations of European Christians in the Near East continued well into the 17th century. During the Crusades, European Christians committed terrible atrocities against Muslims. They massacred entire Muslim populations, burned their cities, and destroyed their places of worship. The Crusaders were also responsible for the deaths of many innocent people, including women and children. The atrocities committed by the Crusaders during their invasions of the Holy Land are a stain on the history of Christianity. Number 5. The Spanish Reconquista. The Spanish Reconquista was a long process that took place over several centuries. It began in the early 8th century when Muslim armies from North Africa invaded and conquered the Iberian Peninsula. By the 10th century, only a small portion of the peninsula, known as the North African Emirate, was still under Christian rule. However, during the next 2 centuries, the North African emirs began to lose territory to the expanding armies of the Almoravid dynasty. By the 12th century, only a small portion of the Iberian Peninsula, known as the Kingdom of Leon and Castile, was still under Christian rule. But during the next 2 centuries, the Christian kingdoms began to grow in power, and they began to reclaim territory from the Muslims. In 1492, the last Muslim ruler of Granada, Boabdil, surrendered to the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella, and the Reconquista was complete. During the Reconquista, Christians and Muslims fought each other bitterly. The Christians were determined to drive the Muslims out of the Iberian Peninsula, while the Muslims were determined to hold on to their territory. The fighting was especially intense during the 13th century, when the Christian kingdoms of Leon, Castile, and Aragon made major advances against the Muslims. By the end of the 13th century, only a small portion of the Iberian Peninsula, known as Al-Andalus, was still under Muslim rule. During the 14th and 15th centuries, the fighting continued until the Muslims were finally driven out of Spain. The atrocities committed during the Reconquista were terrible. Thousands of people were killed, and entire villages were destroyed. The Christians were responsible for some of the worst atrocities, such as the sack of Toledo in 1085, when Christian soldiers massacred hundreds of Muslims and Jews. 4. The Mongol invasions. The Mongol invasions were a series of military campaigns that took place during the 13th and 14th centuries. During these campaigns, the Mongols conquered a huge amount of land, stretching from Eastern Europe to the Pacific Ocean. The Mongol armies were led by Genghis Khan and his successors, and they were known for their brutality and ruthlessness. The Mongols did not differentiate between men, women, or children when it came to killing. They also did not take prisoners. Everyone who stood in their way was put to death. The Mongols were also responsible for some of the deadliest sieges in history, such as the Siege of Baghdad in 1258, when they killed nearly 1 million people. In addition to the massive loss of life, the Mongol invasions also caused great destruction. They burned cities and villages, destroyed crops and livestock, and left millions of people homeless. The Mongol invasions were a terrible tragedy for the people who lived through them. The brutality and ruthlessness of the Mongol armies is truly horrifying, and the massive loss of life and destruction that they caused is staggering. No. 3. The Ottoman conquest of Constantinople. The Ottoman conquest of Constantinople took place in 1453 when the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II conquered the city of Constantinople, which was the capital of the Byzantine Empire. The Ottomans had been besieging the city for several weeks, and they finally succeeded in entering the city on April 1453. Once the Ottomans had control of the city, they began to massacre the Christian population. Thousands of people were killed, and many more were taken captive. The Ottomans also looted the city and took control of its valuable resources. The conquest of Constantinople was a significant event in history. It marked the end of the Byzantine Empire and the beginning of the Ottoman Empire. It also had a profound impact on the course of European history. If the Ottomans had not conquered Constantinople, it is likely that the Renaissance would have occurred in the Byzantine Empire instead of Italy. The conquest also led to the rise of Russian power in the Orthodox world. Since the Russian Orthodox Church saw itself as the true successor of the Byzantine Orthodox Church, the conquest of Constantinople had a profound impact on the history of both the Ottoman Empire and Europe. The conquest marked the beginning of the Ottoman Empire's rise to power, and it also had a profound impact on the course of European history. Number 2. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria is a legendary event that is said to have taken place in ancient Egypt. According to legend, the library was destroyed by Julius Caesar, the Roman general and statesman. Caesar was in Alexandria in 48 BC when he engaged in a civil war against his rival, Pompey. During the battle, Caesar's ships caught fire, and he ordered his men to set fire to the nearby library in order to prevent the flames from spreading to his fleet. The fire is said to have raged for 7 days and nights and ultimately destroyed the library, which was one of the largest and most comprehensive collections of books and scrolls in the ancient world. Another account claims that Caliph Omar, the second caliph of Islam, ordered the destruction of the library because its contents were deemed heretical. Whatever the cause, the destruction of the library was a great loss for the ancient world. The library contained works of art and literature from all over the known world, and its destruction deprived future generations of the opportunity to learn from the ancients. The destruction of the library is a reminder of the fragility of knowledge and the importance of preserving our cultural heritage. Number 1. The Sack of Rome. The sack of Rome was a devastating event that took place in 410 AD when a Gothic army led by King Alaric I plundered and sacked the city of Rome. At the time, Rome was the capital of the Western Roman Empire, and the sack was a humiliating blow to the imperial prestige. The Goths had been migrating into the Roman Empire for several years and had been employed as mercenaries by the Roman army. However, in 406, a group of Goths rebelled against their Roman overlords and began to plunder the province of Noricum. In 410, Alaric led his army on a campaign into Italy, where they plundered and sacked the city of Rome. The sack lasted for 3 days, and the Goths looted and destroyed much of the city. They stole priceless works of art and treasure and killed thousands of Roman citizens. The sack of Rome was a pivotal moment in the decline of the Western Roman Empire. It demonstrated the empire's weakness and vulnerability and contributed to the fall of Rome just over a century later. The sack also had a profound impact on the people of Rome, who suffered greatly from the violence and destruction. The sack of Rome was a terrible tragedy and one of the darkest moments in the history of the Western Roman Empire. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment below with your opinion on what the cruelest thing that the Islamic Caliphates did to the conquered peoples. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe, and press the notification bell icon for more videos like this.